Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Greta Ohanti and I am so excited to have you back here once again. I want to say thank you, a special thank you to everyone who has watched my videos, who has engaged in one way or the other by liking, by subscribing, by sharing, by just watching and even reaching out to me on Instagram, on WhatsApp saying, how about this? Can you send this? I am so grateful. Thank you very much. So let's dive right into today's video. Today, I'll be talking about why I decided to stick to the PR route rather than continue with the study route. If you watched previous videos, especially the video where I told my story and my permanent relocation story, I talked about how it got to a certain point. I decided to try going to school. I applied to one college and I gained admission in Ontario. I gained admission. I did my research, did everything, how much I was going to need and all. I discussed with family. My family was in total support. But when it came to paying the fees and going ahead to apply for the visa, that was when we got stuck because Canadian dollar to naira was now very high and then we couldn't go ahead with it. And then, so what I did was I sat down to think about the pros and the cons. I had to tell myself, pick your fight. I weighed both battles. Which one would give me the most privilege? Which one would give me headache? Which one would take a toll on me? Knowing my background, knowing where I was coming from, I had to say, okay, you have one option. You have to leave school because there is no way there. I had to tell myself the French battle is better. Go back to study that French because prior to that time, it had become a burden for me. So now I will be telling you the things I considered before I decided to stick to the PR route. The first thing was, of course, I just mentioned the cost of studying in Canada. Guys, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It wasn't cheap then. It's not even cheap now. It's even more expensive now. When you want to go to school in Canada, you're required to have your school fees. So let's say if you're going for a 1-year course or 2 years course, you're required to have fees for those 2 years or even 1 year. Maybe for 1 year first, then you have to prove to them that you can make payment for the fees for the other year. And also you need living expenses for each year of study. If you're going for 2 years course, you need living expenses of 10,000 naira for the 2 years. Then it was 2 years. Now recently the Canadian government just increased the cost and the amount for the living expenses. We are not talking about the fees now. So now for each individual, for one person, you will be needing 20,000 Canadian dollars as your living expenses for each year. Now let's say you're going to school for 2 years, for a 2-year program, and for each year your fees is $15,000. So you're paying $30,000 for both years. And then you'll not be needing $20,000 times 2, which is $40,000 for living expenses. Put everything together, $70,000. Guys, if person wants it that kind of money, I know some people have it, some people find a way around it, but of course, for the majority, that money is big, and considering our exchange rate now. So I had to backtrack. For one person, I'm just going to put here, while I'm looking at my laptop, I'm just going to put here how much, there's this thing I saw, this comparison I saw there's this guy on Instagram, Kubai Kamal, that's his name. I'm going to put the comparison he did here concerning how much it costs to study as an international student and also as a PR. Now, first of all, let's look at these requirement for living expenses. Now you see for one person it says 20,635 Canadian dollars. Now if you're coming with a family of 2, you will now need 25,619 Canadian dollars for each year living expense. We're not talking about your school fees, we're not talking about flight fee. right? For a family of three, you're looking at $31,583. So now let's say, okay, you decide not to go with your family at the first instance, you want to go just by yourself. You will require 20,635 Canadian dollars for your living expense minus school fees. If you're going for a 1 year program, 15,000 Canadian dollars or whatever it is, you would have to provide that. Now let's go to the other the comparison between schooling in Canada as an international student and as a domestic student. Now look at this comparison here. For a course like nursing, for a domestic student, you would require 6,973. For some schools, it could be cheaper. Trust me, 6,973 Canadian dollars. For an international student, for 1 year, you need 18,910 Canadian dollars, and you might have other little fees that will be added to all of this, maybe for books, for health, or whatever. I really cannot say now if this money is the total amount that is needed, but let's say this is the tuition. This is the tuition. For other courses, I don't know what these other courses mean, but let's say for the MCIS, I don't know what that course stands for. You need 9,169 Canadian dollars for a domestic student. And trust me, domestic students include PR like myself, permanent residents like myself. And for a graduate, for an international graduate, this is a graduate course you're going for, you need 21,163 Canadian dollars for tuition. Now let's add the 20,000 plus living expense fee. That's 41,000 and almost 42,000 Canadian dollars. That is what someone needs for a 1 year course now, the MCIS. Now let's go to fees for other fees. Let's look at what other fees would show us. For architecture, like a course like architecture, graduates, domestic students will pay 6,886. I'm just going to leave all of this here. And for an international student, you're looking at 27,575. That's just the tuition alone. It wasn't this expensive even when I applied to go study, but I had to think about it. This is too much. And as a P, once I become a permanent resident, I will be paying the fees for the fees that citizens pay. I will be paying what citizens are paying. So I had to say, Greta, pick your battle. Go back to study your French. Focus on your French. People have been doing it. It's not an impossible task, and that was why I went back to pursuing being a PR, a permanent resident. Now let's come to other benefits. Once you're a permanent resident, even before you land, you have some settlement courses that are made available to you. Now, when I got my ready for visa email, of course, I sent my passport. I knew my passport was coming. I knew my travel date was coming so close. So I was sick. I was mentally down. I was restless. My head was heavy because I just kept thinking, what would life be like? How would it be? I'm going to a new place. Where do I start from? Where do I start with preparation? But lo and behold, someone now advised me to take advantage of the pre-arrival settlement course, or their courses, different courses that are made available to permanent residents before they land, made available by the IRCC, by the Canadian government. And then I signed up for it. I got like an employment counselor. We had about 3 meetings. We went over my CV, over my resume rather, over my LinkedIn account, job search. I took the courses, working in a Canadian culture and all of that, guys. When I started going through these courses, my body calmed down. It was like a weight was lifted off of me, and I started seeing things clearly. That fear, that anxiety I was feeling just suddenly disappeared. And again, I had now handed over everything to God. So I took advantage of the pre arrival courses and they were very helpful. Even when I landed, I went to a settlement agency to tell them that, okay, I need help with this, I need help with that. And I know some other benefits I have gotten, which I would come to. And those were the things I thought about, like for bus pass, I've been able to get a reduced amount, discounted amount for bus pass. Instead of paying 100 and something dollars monthly for my bus pass unlimited, I got to pay 35,000 and $35, and that would be for like I think 6 months, if not more than. I can't really say now. I get access to leisure parks, museums, and whatnot, free of charge for 1 year as a new permanent resident. Those are perks that are available. Another thing I thought about was, okay, I've already thought about it coming to school here. As a permanent resident, you have access to loans and grants from the government. Of course, I've earlier mentioned that you'll be paying what citizens are paying. You'll be paying domestic fees if you choose to go back to school, and then you can access loans. You have provincial student loans, you have grants from the government. Yes, you get to pay back, but sometimes they give you like they give you space to pay back this money. Like you could finish your program and you start working before you start paying back. Sometimes you get grants, and some of these grants you don't even get to pay back. These are benefits. Like you don't have to stress yourself. You're coming to school as a student, as an international student. You know the stress. Sometimes some people think, okay, when they come here, they would get jobs. But I know someone that has been here as an international student, and for 5 months she has not gotten a job, and she's schooling in Ontario. Most people go to, yes, for some people they go to cheaper provinces. They don't go to Ontario that is very expensive, and it comes out well for them. But when we think about the lump sum that you need to pay, it is still much, especially considering the exchange rate back in Nigeria. So these are some of the things I considered, and most people consider. Yes, there are some people that can still carry this weight, the weight of going to study as an international student. They can still carry it, but like I said, I decided to pick my battle. And the French was an easier battle for me. Like while I'm here, the money I brought here, it is mine. I'm not paying it for any, I'm not using it to pay any fees. I just know that I'm using it to settle down here. If one is lucky, you get a job a month or a few weeks after you land, you know that you're not spending the totality of the money you came in. It is yours. You can still use it to maybe act as a down payment for a house or whatever. Use it to do whatever you want to do. It is your money. You're not paying it to anyone as a permanent resident. So these were some of the things I considered that I said, Greater, pick your fight, pick your battle well. And I settled for going to study my French. Yeah, like I said in my French video, not everyone goes to learn French. Some people just, maybe they have other, like the category based jobs favors them and they use that to become permanent resident. So sit down, pick your fight, weigh both options and pick your fight. If you feel that okay, you can still fight the battle of coming to study as an international student in this current day and time, fine. This is not to discourage you, but this is just me sharing my story why I decided to stick to the permanent residency route. Even when it was now becoming too long, I decided to pick my battle, and I picked the French battle. And thankfully, I am a permanent resident now, and I am a bilingual Canadian permanent resident. I got my permanent resident card few days ago. Now I am a certified and confirmed permanent resident, and help you know the pros and the cons. The relaxation that comes with the thought of you being a permanent resident. Yes, it's not easy for everyone. It's not like permanent residents, PRs will not find challenges, will not meet one hurdle to cross or the other. Moving to a new country is not always easy. You settling down in an entirely new country, new culture, it's not easy. You will surely meet challenges. You will surely find challenges that you will need to jump past, like you will need to cross. But these challenges for PR, for permanent residents, it's a bit, it's better. Like, you don't get too stressed like that. The challenges might be, okay, you getting a job, it's not be easy getting a job in the field that you desire, or even getting a job at all. You just have to work at it. But again, it is better when you're just looking for a job and not thinking about the fact that, oh, I have school fees to pay, I have bills to pay, and I don't have a job, I have classes to go to, and all of that and all of that. I thought of all these things. I sat down, I thought of it. The fact that I wanted to go back to school again and I couldn't afford it, and I knew that if I become a permanent resident, I will not only feel more relaxed, I would also be able to access help to go to school. I could go to school at a cheaper rate, and if I need help, I can access help to go to school. I had to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this is a much better way for me. Let me struggle it out here with this friend, so that I know that I will not have to go struggle it out in a place, in a new country that is so expensive, because Canada, I don't know, I would say it's expensive to live in. Guys, thank you so very much for watching this video. I hope you learned one or two things. If you have questions, you can always ask me. Like I said, someone reached out to me on Instagram yesterday, and I was very happy she reached out to me. This video, like I would say, it's not to discourage you, it's just to help people be aware.